Hello and welcome to the Flip Flop Family podcast. I'm Xylene and this is my absolute favourite time of the week where I get to record and chat to you about what's been going on in my hectic brain. I want to start off with something that I actually did this week, which is quite funny, I would say. Well, maybe not funny, but you may have been seeing all over social media everything about Simon Squibb and the amazing thing that he's doing to help people achieve their dreams by giving them money to start up businesses or give them following or anything that they need in order to achieve their dreams. Well, I had a moment of madness and I actually messaged Simon Squibb on Instagram to see if he could help me achieve my dream. And I obviously didn't think he would even read it or that anything would come of it, but it was actually really nice writing this really long message. And it got me thinking, does everybody have a dream and does everybody voice their dream? And I think there's something really powerful in actually speaking about what your dream is to help you achieve it and not just keeping it in your brain. And I think there are lots of different types of people out there, people who maybe don't have dreams and just think, well, life is just to kind of get from one place to another, to get material gain or to get to a certain level in their career. But maybe they just landed up in that place and it's not really what they want. I think there are a lot of people out there who would love to do certain things and have passions, but maybe they just think it's unachievable. But I think a great place to start, like with myself writing to Simon Squibb, is to write out what has happened to get you where you are now and what you need to do to get where you want to go to achieve that dream. And sometimes things can really get in your way. And I find when things are hard, especially, even more things get in your way. Like I wanted to title this podcast this week because it's been in my brain a lot. I wanted to call it Tax is Taxing, but I didn't want you to think that my podcast was all about tax because how incredibly boring would that be? But this week, although I didn't want this podcast to be time sensitive, it is the week of submitting self-assessments and I have to submit mine, and can you believe it's due in like 2 days and I still haven't finished it. And I don't know why I do this to myself, but I've been filling myself with dread. Like the anxiety levels have been going through the roof while I've been trying to deal with this, and it's not a big deal. I just have to do it and I have to pay it. But I think a lot of us can do this. We bury our head in the sand when we need to do something that perhaps we feel a little bit uncomfortable with, or maybe we feel a bit ill-equipped to deal with it, or we're worried about the outcome, or it's just really unfamiliar. And I think money is a big thing for a lot of people. It's not something that we really like to talk about, especially if there is an issue with money and paying things, or perhaps it's a really difficult conversation, or maybe it's in your relationship where something's bothering you about your partner, but things are blissful and you don't really want to interrupt the calm. It could be a difficult conversation with someone at work who's maybe done or said something inappropriate and you know you need to speak up, but you don't want to be that person. Like, who wants to be a grass, right? But it's just so interesting that we do this, that we get ourselves in these situations when it can so easily be dealt with if we just dealt with the problem head on. And I'm not preaching, please don't think I'm preaching, because I never thought I could be like that or that I was like that, but I really am. Like, I can really just park things, and I just think it's so bad. Like, we should never be parking things, although it's so easy to do it. And that's, I guess, really where I wanted to go with today's podcast, all about procrastination and avoidance. Like, why do we do it? And I've been kind of looking into this to figure it out for myself, and I feel like I'm not the only one who does this. There must be so many people that also avoid situations. And apparently it's because it gives us a bit of a temporary breather from the larger issue, even though that we know it's going to cause more discomfort and misery later. And the science behind it is that the brain is trying to avoid immediate negative feelings, which totally makes sense. But the funny thing about all of this is that it's going to happen sooner or later. So why do we actually avoid it? We know it's going to cause us stress. But the reason why we avoid tasks and feel miserable is for a number of reasons. So it's the fear of failure. And I can really understand that, like, something is hard or you may not succeed, so you avoid it. And I think that's probably another reason why maybe a lot of people don't actively try and achieve their dreams. And I'm definitely one of those people. Like, I felt like I was achieving my dreams before I had children, and I felt like I was on a good path to where I wanted to go. And then things happened. There was bumps in the road that prevented me from getting where I needed to go. And I felt quite burnt by those experiences. And although I believed in myself, it was quite uncomfortable to go back and try exploring those dreams. And it's weird, I'm actually saying this to you. I never really thought of it in that way, but wow, this podcast is like therapy for me. I hope it's therapy for you. But that fear of failure, it's mammoth. Like, it can just stop you from doing so many things. There's also that feeling of being overwhelmed about a situation or a task that you need to complete. And again, feeling overwhelmed can make you avoid it. Then there's the perfectionists out there, that desire to do a task perfectly. And knowing that you don't feel that comfortable with it, or perhaps you don't know how to do it, you just don't do it at all. Then there's good old motivation. That comes into everything, doesn't it? If you don't have a clear path and you've got a bit of a lack of interest in the task that you have to do, you're going to avoid it, aren't you? And there's the anticipation of the stressful situation, which is another crazy one for me. You know it's a stressful situation. So instead of just dealing with that stress, you give yourself more stress and anxiety by avoiding the stress. It's just ridiculous. Then you have the habitual procrastinator out there, and you know who you are. Those people who repeatedly put things off. They just can't be dealing with it. So the misery persists. And then we feel guilty. And then we start criticizing ourselves for not doing it sooner. Like, coming back to this tax return, my sister's like so good at just dealing with this. And she dealt with it ages ago. Like, really and truly, you can do it from April. So you have from like April to January to sort yourself out. That is a long time. And she keeps reminding me, and I'm like, yeah. And I really like palm it off like it's no big deal. I'm like, oh, what's the big deal? You just do it and you pay it. But inside I'm like, this is so long. So long. So then that pressure builds up, and then it becomes even more daunting till you get to the very last minute. When it's due, when you have to complete that task, when you cannot put it off any longer, you have got to speak to that person. You have got to pay that bill. You've got to do that difficult task that you've been avoiding. And then there are issues. There are mistakes. You have errors because you took so long and you left it to the last minute. There's not enough time. It's just insane, isn't it? All of this is crazy. Just deal with the task, people. We need to just stop procrastinating and deal with the task. And the way that we're going to do it is we need to identify, why am I avoiding this? Break it down. Break down that massive task into small bite-sized pieces. God, I feel like I'm talking to my child now. Again, I'm talking to myself. Break it down. Make it easy. Do one day at a time and set realistic goals. And there's that positive self-talk. That's, I think, amazing. Like, challenge those negative thoughts about the situation, replace them with encouraging words. I do this all the time. Like, when I'm like running to pick up Zach from school, I'm like, come on, Zylene, you can do this. You can like set the pace. You can go and pick him up and not be late. Or if I'm trying to get a job or get something, like, I really do talk to myself a lot. Come on, Zylene, come on. You can do this. You were born to do this. Come on. Like, it's amazing how being your own mascot can actually be really, really powerful. And I definitely do it to myself all the time. Good old time management techniques. Get a calendar, to-do lists. I'm a bit old school, and I actually do have a paper calendar and loads of books that I've written to-do lists on. But what I find helps me the most is my alarm on my phone. I do that for everything, like literally from reminding myself to take my vitamins to reminding Zach that he needs to take his guitar to school on a Wednesday. See, I can't even remember it without my phone. But I use my phone alarm for everything. Like, if my phone doesn't buzz and tell me stuff, I forget. Similarly with obviously Alexa and telling her to-do lists. Like, if I don't tell Alexa what I want and Alexa doesn't remind me with my shopping list and all sorts, it's gone. Like, even when Ben asks me, he's like, oh babe, can you remember to buy bran flakes? And I'm like, what have you told Alexa? But I'm like the middleman. He has to tell me, and then I have to tell Alexa so that Alexa can then tell me later on. It's crazy. Just go straight to Alexa, people. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent, but you get what I mean. So I really wanted to do this podcast to talk about procrastination and avoidance, which I've done. And I really hope it's made you think about things that you perhaps procrastinate about. I'm sure there's got to be something, even if you're not a procrastinator. I feel like everybody procrastinates about something. And as you know, I always like to have a quote in my podcast, but you wouldn't believe the dark quotes and words that you find on the internet if you search quotes about avoidance. I wanted to have one that ended positively, but no, there's nothing good. Don't even search quotes about avoidance and procrastination, because they're not nice. They're very dark. So I thought, what better way than to create the quote myself? Wait for it. It's a good one. Winners don't procrastinate. Yup. 3 words. I guess you could say it's a bit more of a mantra, but it's very, very true. And if you do use this, make sure you write Eileen Hewins underneath it. I mean, maybe other people might have, but winners don't procrastinate. That is my original quote, mantra. So whenever you're thinking of procrastinating and avoiding something, and you know you're putting something off for tomorrow, just think, winners don't procrastinate. Deal with the task today. Today, people. Right. Moving on. This is my savvy tip of the week. I got a little email from Tesco's the other day reminding me that my club card vouchers were going to expire next month. And I have £11 worth of vouchers, which obviously I don't want to waste. But there is a really good savvy tip for you. If you have a Tesco club card, which I hope you do have, because these days, if you go into like the Tesco petrol station, or if you do your big shop at Tesco's, everything is like double the price. Well, a lot of things are double the price. If you don't have a club card, I feel like they've made everybody get a club card, because you have the regular price and then you have the club card price. But I only really go to Tesco because it's my local petrol station. So I've got £11 worth. But don't ever spend your club card vouchers in Tesco's. That is my savvy tip of the day. Because if you didn't know this, you can actually exchange those vouchers for reward partner vouchers. And I'm talking about doubling your money. So instead of £11, I actually have £22 to use in a lot of places. I'm talking like hundreds. They're not all double, but a lot of them are. So like EasyJet holidays, airport parking. Normally I spend about £50 to park our car when we go on holiday, but I just would have got £22 off that. That's massive. Fitbit, Disney Plus, loads of days out like Thorpe Park, Legoland, Cadbury World. You know how expensive these things get. And Pizza Express. Amazing. So that is my savvy tip. Don't use your Tesco club card vouchers for groceries. Use it for reward partners and double your money. It's fabulous. I mean, I think that's an amazing savvy tip. If you didn't already know it, I really do. Now, I've been quite cool, but it's time for my rant, people. In my gym, we have a swimming pool, which we use regularly. Even the kids use it. But why is it that parents, I mean, obviously, I'm only really talking about mums because I'm in the women's changing room, but I don't want to discriminate. This could be dads too. Why do they not have an inside voice? Like, I don't need to know about what your child is going to be doing next. And I don't need to know about what they're going to be having for dinner. And I don't need to hear you trying to discipline them either. And that might sound really awful, as I am a mother, but it's just so loud. Like when I go to my changing room in the gym, I can just hear all these parents talking to their children, but I can't see them because they're around the corner, but they're so loud. They're so loud. I don't know if you have this problem too, but it's very, very regular. So I try to avoid the gym during the swimming lessons, which again, I do sound terrible. I know this, but I hope you can level with me and understand that when you go to the gym, you just want to chill and you want to relax. Or if you go for a swim, you don't want to hear mums telling off their kids. I get you've got to tell them off, but can you not tell them off quietly? Inside voices. Use your inside voices. Apologies in advance, because if you didn't get annoyed by this, now that I've mentioned it, you definitely are. And I was that person. I remember Ben saying to me, babe, you're being really loud, like when I was telling off Emiliana and Zach. And I don't think as mums, we realise how loud we're being. But now that I'm kind of on the other end of that, and I don't really need to tell my kids off that much, it's like you notice it so much more. So apologies if I've made you realise how loud parents are when they're telling off their kids. On to my game changer. I don't really want to tell you where I bought this from, but it's an amazing thing that you put on top of cans. So if you are someone who uses cans of food like sweet corn or kidney beans or anything that has a juice inside it that you need to drain. Actually, isn't that most things? I'm just thinking, no, there isn't. There's baked beans, there's fruit corn. No, so not everything, but there are some things that you need to drain out the fluid. And I like to minimize the washing up in my house. So I'm not really a fan of having extra things. I don't really like washing up strainers for some reason. You're like a massive strainer in like a tiny can. So I got this thing, it's like a rubber strainer and it's round, it's kind of domed shape, and it's like a little hat, and you just put it over, you open your can and then you put it over the top of your can and then you turn it over and all the juices just drain out from this tiny little round thing that's the same diameter as a tin can. I know I get excited about small things. I probably know that about me now, but it really is a game changer in your house if you are someone who uses tin cans. So get one. It's really, really cheap. It's a rubber strainer. Just stick it over your tin can like it's a woolly hat and drain out your liquids. Absolutely phenomenal. I think I've really helped you out on today's podcast, I feel. You've definitely helped me out with my therapy. So there we go. Win-win. I'd like to end this podcast today on my song of the week. It's been a bit of a random one today, so I think I'm going to end on a random song. And I have to do a big shout out and a big thanks to my Uncle Terry because he introduced me to it at the weekend. It's a very old song. It's by Madness and the song is called Shame and Scandal. The chorus is basically misery. Oh, misery. It kind of goes like that, which I think is quite apt considering we've been talking about how we make ourselves miserable by avoiding certain situations. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's like the song, it's like the story in the song belongs on a Jerry Springer show. If you remember Jerry Springer and how crazy like the family situations would be on that show, this song is almost like it's been written about a family that have been on the Jerry Springer show. But it's really funny. It really made me laugh. Kind of, we were sitting there listening to it as Uncle Terry was singing it and playing his guitar. And every time another chorus was sung, we were like, oh, because it kind of got deeper and deeper as the song went on. So bear with me. Do have a listen if you'd like to. Madness, Shame and Scandal. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast with me, Xylene. Remember, the Flip Flop Family podcast releases twice a week, every Monday and Thursday, and we are on all the podcast listening platforms as well as YouTube. And if you do like what you hear, please do click the little ring bell and it will tell you every time we release a podcast. You can also check us out on all the socials on Instagram and TikTok and on Facebook. Thank you so much for listening and I hope you have a beautiful week. And remember, winners don't procrastinate. Bye.